Hi, happy Monday. This is video 4 in my video series, and I want to do a short breakdown with you on transparency and how pay packages are worked out. I'm going to do a second part to this video that's going to kind of break things down for you in real terms, like on a whiteboard, but this is just going to be a short kind of overtone of that. What the most important points I want to get across to you are pay packages and making sure your recruiter is willing to tell you how they break down your pay package. Make sure they are willing to explain that to you. I understand they send you a breakdown. They say, oh, well, here's your breakdown, and it's written out. But I want you to understand what that means. Not just have something sent to you. I want you to understand where they got that number from. And your recruiter should be willing to explain that to you. You also should be able to figure out that on your own. Know where to go to find the GSA. So the GSA is basically your per diem. So if you are a traveler, you should know that you could go to, and I'm going to put this link in the video as well, to gsa.gov, and you can put in wherever you're traveling to. You can put in the city, the state, and then the year, and then it'll have the months and the of your contract. It'll have in your housing and stipends, and then it'll have your meals and incidentals. You can put that in for your 3 months. Basically, you average that out. Oh, you add it up and average it out, and then you multiply it times. I'll do this for you. This is going to be on the second video, so you can figure out what your stipend should be, and then that way you kind of have an idea of where they're getting that number from and why it is what it is, because you should be able to do that for yourself. Another thing with that is if a package seems too good to be true, it might be too good to be true. So an example is, this is for CNAs, this is for LPNs, this is for search techs, allied, anything. You should have your taxable wage should always at least be a living wage. What you would make for a staff job. So if you are a CNA, minimum $10 an hour. You should never make less than $10 an hour on your taxable wage. RN, no less than $20 an hour on your taxable wage. And your GSA, which is your stipend, has to be on point with what the guidelines are. You know, you can't go, okay, we're going to pay you $10 an hour and $6,000 a week non-taxed. There are agencies out there that do that, but there are a lot of agencies that follow the guidelines. So I am not dissing all the good agencies out there, but there are some agencies out there that will do this. They will say, okay, we're going to pay you this way. You know, $20 an hour, $5,000 a week stipend. That is not how the guidelines work. And a lot of these agencies will do this because it's not them. They may get caught and they may be audited by the IRS. But at the end of the day, they might just be willing to pay a fine. And you are the one that's going to get stuck with the IRS being fined, being audited, paying back those taxes. And so you need to be diligent and make sure you're paying attention to these pay packages. And while it looks good in the moment, don't accept those pay packages. Be smart. You know, speak up and say, look, I need to make sure this is following the guidelines, because while it looks good in the moment, down the line, when it catches up with you, it's not good. So you've got to be your own advocate and ask, hey, where did you come with this number? You know, how did this work out? Because that's important. It's so important. And I'm going to show you how these numbers are figured out on my second video. It's not going to be today. It'll be later this week or next week. I'm going to come up with a video. I'm going to get a whiteboard. I'm going to kind of show you how these are figured out. And I'll probably stitch a video of the GSA of how it's shown, of how I would go in and look for a specific travel contract. Also, transparency is kind of important. I'm only going to touch on this a little bit here. You can ask your recruiter what their bill rate is. Most likely, they're not going to share that with you. I share that usually, but I also try to explain what the situation is when I'm figuring out a pay package. I explain if there is a direct contract with that client, which means that I have no fees that I'm paying on the rate that I'm being paid, or if I am dealing with an MSP, which means I'm dealing with Health Trust, I'm dealing with AMN, I'm dealing with Staff and C, I'm dealing with Cross Country, and they charge fees like 5% on the bill rate or 6% on the bill rate or something like that. So when you're dealing with those things, when smaller agencies dealing with them, AMN or Health Trust or these other agencies will have higher rates on the same contracts that they are allowing us to staff as well. Because what they do is they get these contracts from the hospitals. They try to fill them first at the higher rate that the hospital is giving them. And then they give us a lower bill rate and then charge us a fee on top of that to be able to staff it. So these smaller agencies are not being dishonest when we are filling these contracts. We are working with the rate we're given and we're paying a fee on top of that. And that, I think, is not, a lot of agencies don't share that with you. They just kind of work with what they're given. And I think that, I don't know if they think that you won't understand or what, but I'm very transparent and I think you should know these things. I'm always open for questions. I'm always willing to sit down with a nurse or an allied health or a CNA, anybody, and say, okay, this is how I came to your pay. This is what it means. And I think that it's important that you find somebody that's at least willing to say, this is how I figured it out, even if they're not going to share. You know, it's fair to come to, you know, everybody has to have a percentage. Some agencies, they have a high percentage they're trying to make. You know, some have lower. You know, 18 to 22%, even 25% is fair on an agency end because they always have a burden. A lot of them have a lot higher percentage they're trying to make. So I'm going to figure this out with you on my next video. I want to go over how overtime is figured and the 2 different ways that they figured out for you. The way I think is a fair way to do it. The way I've always done it. And the way that a lot of companies do it, which I think is really crappy. And you really get screwed out of your overtime on your travel contracts. So I'm just talking a lot right here. I hope you'll watch my next video. This one is just kind of going over a little bit over how pay packages are figured. And I hope you'll watch the next one where I sit down and I really break it down for you. And I just want you to make sure you're with somebody that is willing to do that. Is willing to tell you how they come to your pay. Because it's your pay. It's your money. And you need to know what's going on with it. It's your money. You know, and you're working hard for that money. And every cent counts. Thank you for all you do. Part 2 coming probably midweek. I think I won't delay this very long because I think it's important to kind of keep the continuum going with this because they're together.